Now to the latest on the Alabama Senate race. The polls closed about 30 minutes ago, and here are some updated numbers for you. Roy Moore has 36% of the vote. Doug Jones has 63.7%, but it is very, very early. Just 7 precincts have reported in, so we have a long night ahead of us.
Alabama is a solidly red state, which President Trump won by 28 points. Voters there have not sent a Democrat to the Senate in 25 years. But the race was turned upside down by allegations of sexual misconduct against Roy Moore. Multiple women have accused Moore of trying to date them when they were teenagers and he was in his 30s. Moore has denied the accusations.
For more on the race, let's bring in KTVU political analyst Brian Sobel. Brian, what are you looking for when you see these results, these numbers start to come out?
Well, in the early hours, they're meaningless, but as you know, I always look for trends, and if you see somebody surging, then you look at where in the state that's coming from, and that'll be your indicator. But we're going to go a little ways tonight before we start seeing, I think, this trend out.
They haven't sent a Democrat to the Senate in 25 years, voters there in Alabama. What national implications would this have for President Trump, or really Republicans and Democrats, if either candidate wins?
The X factor here, Julie, is that he is suffering, Moore is, from the sexual allegations and things like that. He is, of course, being pinned to the president and to the Republican Party. Republican Party's job is going to be to say, hey, this is an anomaly based on the actions of this individual. You know, they've got their job to do to separate from them, which is why so many Republicans in Washington said, hey, not interested in this guy.
You know, the thing about what Julie just said about how long it's been since a Democrat won there, it's almost an impossible task for a Democrat to win in Alabama. The fact that it's even being discussed, the fact that it's even close, what does that say?
Well, it just says that since the story broke weeks ago, that immediately people in Alabama wanted to dismiss it, hearsay, not true. As it went on and as people started putting names to victims and their stories started coming out, people in Alabama started to kind of see the creepy factor in all of this and saying, hey, this isn't right. And if it's true, then we've got a problem with this guy. And further, when there were so many accusers, it's not just one, but several, that began to alarm people in Alabama.
Well, it is going to be a long night. If Moore does end up winning, what would be next for Senate Republicans?
Well, I think they're going to bring him up to Washington, D.C. He'll be a senator. I think the Democrats will call for ethics investigations. The Republican governor of Alabama, if anything were to happen with Moore, would have a choice and would pick another Republican. So, you know, the Republicans will win, but they'll lose, because if he wins, he's there in the Senate, and he is going to be a huge target nationally and elsewise.
But President Trump will have his Republican vote in the Senate, at least temporarily, if Roy Moore wins. If he loses,
well, if he loses, it takes the numbers of Democrats up with 2 independents in the Senate and makes it very much more difficult to get anything done for the Republicans.
About momentum moving into the midterm election, because the Democrats did unexpectedly well in Virginia, and if they win in Alabama, which nobody would have predicted.
Well, we may be seeing a sea change here, and this is not atypical. You know, when you have a president of one party and both houses also with one party, people start saying, I'm not sure I like that kind of balance. Let's start making some changes.
Well, we're going to continue to watch this Alabama Senate race far into the night until we get a winner. I want to get your thoughts on San Francisco Mayor Ed Lee. Just a huge shock to all of us this morning when we woke up and learned of his passing so suddenly. How is his death going to affect city politics in San Francisco?
Well, he was truly, in my view anyway, a gentleman. He was a bureaucrat politician, not a politician bureaucrat. He understood how the city operated and was humble. And you don't see that all the time in politicians. He was a humble guy and a nice guy.
Yeah, I loved watching him interact with the crowd at the Chinese New Year parade. You could see the
genuine.
Joy on his face.
And genuine.
He
liked people.
He was very proud of the city.
Absolutely.
Right. Brian, thank you.
You're welcome.